Hey guys, welcome to my first ever video. Please be patient with me as this is my first time ever doing this. But I really wanted to address something kind of big that happened in my life because I had a pretty big mindset shift, and I think that anyone going through something similar to what I did could really benefit from this. And I think there's just a lot of people who are genuinely curious about everything that kind of happened. So, currently it is June. Back in November, December of last year, around the holidays, I went home, went back home for the first time since moving to Charlotte, and I was in a really rough place. So I wasn't really sure that moving had been the right thing for me to do. I really missed my friends. I really missed my family. I was feeling just kind of disengaged with the area in general. Even though Colin and I were going out and doing a lot of things, I hadn't really made a lot of friends here. I hadn't connected with people very deeply. And I went home and pretty much wanted to stay while I was there. At this point, I had been crying every day. Colin had no idea what to do because he wasn't expecting it at all. I had been talking about moving and wanting to leave Syracuse for years, literally since he met me. I had probably brought it up regularly since I graduated college in 2013. So for him to hear me really struggling with the move was kind of a surprise. And it surprised me too. I had, like I said, no idea what to do. But I really had to push through all of that, and I went on kind of a journey to turn things around because, as you may now know, Colin and I just bought our first home here in Charlotte, so obviously I'm staying. So in the course of about 6 months, a lot has changed. And I just wanted to walk through what that journey was like for me. So back in November, December, I started to just get really, really stressed. I wasn't sleeping hardly at all. And I don't know if any of you have ever had sleep issues before, but it will turn you into a crazy person because you can't sleep, and then all you can think about is the fact that you can't sleep, and you go through your entire day completely exhausted, and then you get home again and you can't sleep again, and it just spirals into stress, 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 more stress. So that was really, really messing with my head at the time. I had also decided that I wanted to take a break from CrossFit and from group classes in general. I had been listening to a lot of podcasts about just like individual training and personal training and how much more beneficial that is for you, and a lot of things about like adrenal fatigue and trying to make sure that your body wasn't overworked and how CrossFit can overwork your body and all this stuff. So I decided to take a break from CrossFit and see how I would react to that. And by doing that, I was putting myself in kind of an isolated situation. So back in Syracuse, my closest friends, a lot of my closest friends were people that I worked out with, and it was one of the highlights of my day every day to go into urban life and get my workout in, and then to coach there as well. So being in that fitness community was a really big thing for me, and by leaving group classes and instead trying to work out on my own at the YMCA with my headphones in, not talking to anyone, was a pretty big shift, and that took away one really big avenue for me to meet people. So that, I think, was something that also contributed to this. I also work in a pretty small office. There's about 20 people, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I really like the people that I work with, but that's not a huge opportunity to kind of find your new tribe of people. Back in the day, for example, when I worked at Syracuse, there were close to 200 people, and I had close to 10 people that I worked with that I could hang out with on any given day. So it's obviously a pretty big difference to go to working at a place that has only 20 people and you don't know anyone. And like I said, those people have been great, and working with them has been really awesome. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just not a huge opportunity to meet people there either. And then there was nothing else that I was really doing at that point in time to try and go out and make friends. So it was really hard for me to feel like I was having that connection with anybody new. And I'm a very social person by nature, so that was really, really hard for me. I have Colin here. He's my husband and my best friend, and we were doing, like I said, a lot of stuff together. Like, we were going to Hornets games, Giants games, checking out lots of new breweries and restaurants, new to us, not new to Charlotte, but just having tons of fun doing those things. But I still craved like the friendships that I had in Syracuse, and I also had a hard time seeing so many of my friends being pregnant, and just knowing that I was missing out on something really big going on in their lives. And it just really got my wheels spinning of like, I already have amazing friends. Do I even want new friends? But I can't see my friends all the time. What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. So it's just that, combined with the lack of sleep, combined with my lack of effort to try and meet anyone new, was all really spiraling in my head. So while we were home for Christmas and I was crying to Colin that I wanted to stay, and I cried to like all my friends while I was there that I wasn't sure I wanted to be in Charlotte anymore and I wanted to come home. While I was going through that, Colin was just finally like, listen, you either have to give this a full shot or like we can't do this anymore, basically. So he was like, you need to really change your mindset on this. And if your mindset doesn't change, then I guess we will have to go back. And I really don't want to go back. So I really hope your mindset changes. He was like, there's way more opportunity here than we have at home for both the businesses that we run for ourselves and just life in general. There's so much more to do. Our quality of life is so much better. Why, like, really think about why you want to go back and really think about what you could do to improve your time in Charlotte. And I realized that that misery that I was feeling, combined with the lack of sleep that I was having, meant that I should probably go and see a therapist, because I was struggling so hard. So when we got back to Charlotte after Christmas, I did contact a therapist who I ended up seeing really only twice. I think I just needed to talk it out with a professional one time, come away with some good ideas, and then I took a lot of matters into my own hands after that. But basically, here's what I did to turn things around once we got back. I went and saw the therapist, talked to her about my sleep issues and my sadness and missing my friends, and she gave a couple suggestions. One was to take melatonin before bed. Two was to cut back on my caffeine intake, which I did, and I wrote a blog post about that, and going through that journey made me realize just how much the over-caffeination I was doing was adding to my anxiety and constant spiraling. So by cutting back on that, I was almost immediately able to sleep way better. And then she had me make some kind of promises to myself, like that I was going to reach out to a friend at work to hang out outside of work and make plans outside of work and things like that. And then after having that discussion with her, I kind of left with a bunch of ideas in mind. I took all of those things that she mentioned, put them into place, but I also started getting really serious about writing in a gratitude journal every day so that I knew I had something to reflect on and I was able to pull some of the positives out of my life. That was huge for me. I started meditating regularly. I had done it intermittently before that. And I think that just taking 5 to 10 minutes to myself every day to get into a good headspace made a pretty big impact as well. But then I also decided to really just put myself out there and truly give Charlotte a chance. So what did I do? I reached out to a girl that I worked with to actually spend some time together outside of work. That was hugely helpful. I reached out to a friend that I had met when I first moved down to Charlotte, but we had only really spent time together before I got a job because she doesn't work a very traditional 9 to 5. So we had a lot of time in like the middle of the day to go to exercise classes together and hang out. But then once I got kind of sucked into the 9 to 5 life, I backed away from that. Um, so I started hanging out with her again. At least like once a week, we were catching a workout class together, which was really cool. And then I decided to get back into doing group classes, and that I think made a huge impact, just me getting involved in the fitness community down here. So I started off by joining SweatNet, which is $10 a month, and you get discounted drop-ins at like pretty much every local gym down here. You get discounts and like points when you check in at certain health food places around the area too. So it's just a really cool Charlotte fitness community thing. So by doing that, that was kind of how my friend and I were able to bop around to these different workout classes. I tried lots of new places, and then I decided to put myself out there in the coaching world again, because that was something that was kind of a big hole in my life since I moved to Charlotte. I really missed coaching people in person. So by trying those different group classes, getting involved in coaching, and then also getting a CrossFit membership again so that I was back doing the kinds of workouts that I loved and looked forward to, all of that made a huge impact in my mental health. And it's crazy. It's not like a flip switched and suddenly I knew, but gradually over the course of probably a month, I went from thinking about moving back to Syracuse and questioning my decision every single day to not thinking about it at all anymore and knowing that I made the right decision. And it came from really putting myself out there and just shifting my mindset of like, okay, if you are not happy with your move by the time your lease is up, then you're going home. And that's that. So I gave myself a long time to turn it around, and because my lease was going to end in July. In January, I said, you know what, you have until the end of July to decide what you're going to do. And really by the end of January, I had decided I was here to stay. So yeah, putting myself out there, trying different fitness classes, making sure that I was reaching out to connect with friends and meet new people, that made a difference. And then Colin also had joined a kickball league, and there are about a bajillion kickball leagues here in Charlotte. But in this one, he joined as a free agent. So he was just placed on a team with a bunch of other people who didn't have a team, which is a pretty good idea. Probably means that there's other people looking to meet new people. And that is how he met a couple of our other friends who we now spend a ton of time with, and I look forward to seeing, and I miss them when we go home. So really just finding those people here and finding those connections has made a huge difference. So I don't know if that will help anybody else, if anyone else has gone through this. Actually, I know other people have gone through this, because that is another thing that helped pull me out of this. Was I reached out to pretty much all of my friends who have moved away, and asked them if they went through this and what they did and what they thought about it. And all of them got back to me and said they had this period of time where they questioned it and they wanted to go home and they couldn't stand where they were living. But they all came to realize that they made the right decision, because here's the thing. Syracuse is always going to be there. Those people who are still there are probably not going to go anywhere. And if they do, I'll still be able to visit them wherever they do go. But what's best for my husband and I and our life together is to have all of these different opportunities and take advantage of them and truly live life to the fullest. And now that I've been here for almost a year, I can see just how small my world used to be and how big it is now and how much bigger it can be, and all the things that I can do that just wouldn't have happened if I was in Syracuse. Like, I loved so many places that I was a part of in Syracuse. So many places, so many things, so many people. But the amount of opportunities that I've had here, it's just truly life-changing and amazing, and I wouldn't take it back for anything at this point. And you know what? If down the road I change my mind and something happens that makes me want to move back to Syracuse, that's still always going to be an option. And that's an easier option than me leaving Charlotte to move back home and then deciding, oh wow, why did I do this? I completely missed Charlotte and having to come back here again, or thinking, maybe it just was Charlotte was the problem. I should check out someplace else. So realistically, this staying here just makes more sense in the long term, and I'm happy to do it. Literally never think about, wow, I wish I moved home now. Like I said, still miss people, and still miss some of the things that I had while I was there. But overall, I'm very happy with my decision. And I think that when I came home in June, and it had been 6 months since I had been home, people were a little surprised because I had gone from in November, December being like a shell of myself, so miserable, crying, saying I wanted to stay home, to coming home in June, super excited and happy, and talking about how we had just bought a house. So for anyone who I didn't get to fully explain this to, hopefully that kind of answers your question, and you don't think I'm just some kind of crazy person that changes their mind all the freaking time. But yeah, that was my journey. And if you guys like hearing from me in video content, let me know. Just kind of me rambling on, not a huge, not hitting a lot of specific points in doing this. Just wanted to give you a real honest talk about how I felt and what I went through. If anyone is struggling with this or has any questions, just feel free to reach out. Happy to help anyone at any time. And if you're ever in a place like that where you're feeling crazy, miserable, don't know what you're doing with your life, just go make an appointment with a therapist. I cannot speak highly enough to that point. It's worth it. There's nothing wrong with it. Reduce the stigma around that. It really helps. Yeah, and like I said, I'm here too. You can reach out. Not a professional, but an ear to listen to. All right. Thanks, guys.